And we continue on with the show. Wow, phones are lighting up. I'm getting emails. What happened to Lofthus? Did he get in trouble? Did he? Well, one of our, and I say our, Chris Lofthus Show, preferred vendors, our friends at Concierge Legacy. And Van and Aaron had invited you to come to their event at the Arid Club, and it was what they call the halftime or halfway point, obviously July of basically the season, to look at some financial numbers, what's going on, good, bad, and ugly. And they said, Chris, we'd like you to come up and speak. And a number of investors, I can imagine, at the Arid Club, and you got up and said, hey, here's these numbers. And then, Chris, that's when the fireworks began. Tell us more.
Well, yeah, they did a kind of presentation on what's going on in the market in general. And it's really interesting if you look historically, like they were kind of running the historical numbers of NASDAQ, and it's a good bet, a long-term bet overall. If you look at historically what's going on, the ups and downs and all arounds right now, if you were in there for, say, 10, 15, 20 years with your long-term investments, you're fine. And it looks really good. Well, they asked me to come on and discuss what's going on in real estate. And like we talked about a couple weeks ago, I said, the first thing I said, I came out and I said, here's the deal. You come home from work, you hit the couch or whatever, and you turn the TV on to Fox, and you start listening to the news. Well, we're getting national news, like you said. What'd you call it?
CNN, continually negative news.
Yeah. So I got in there. I talked about it, and I said, look, you're getting national news. I said, so I'm here to show you what's going on locally and what I feel is going on, what I feel is going to happen over the next 12, 18 months, 36 months, so on. So when I started talking about just in general what's happened over the last 7 years is kind of what the snapshot I brought with me to take to him. And you look at the dollar amount, it's kind of interesting because the bottom of the market for new construction was 2 years ago. So the bottom of new construction, which was a median sales price of $163,000, down from 2005 of 250, you're down to 163, units were down. So 2010 was the bottom there for new construction. Now we're up to 208,000. And if you look at what's going on with resale bottomed out last year at 141,000 in Ada County. Now we're up to 160, and we're heading on up. So when I started showing these numbers, because everyone looks at it and they're going, "Hey, it's a buyer's market, buyer's market, buyer's market, buyer's market. The economy's bad. Gonna get a deal. But the fact of the matter is, it's over. And when you talk about bottoming out, Tim Bungard, the CEO of Pioneer Title, was talking about shadow inventory. And if you look at the, what's going on right around here, if the banks did have shadow inventory and they were going to dump a bunch of, bank-owned properties on the market, they surely would have done it 2 years ago or last year or now. And it's just not happening. And when I started talking to these investors, they were just like, are you sure these numbers are right? And it was very funny, opening people's eyes to it. And they really kind of started seeing like, wow, maybe we are seeing some recovery here. We talked about in the first segment, Canyon County too. So overall, we're starting to see some real good recovery. And I just love all the national news. We discussed about that too. But the shoring up of everything, it changes everyone's attitude. It changes everyone's feelings about their home. And it's no longer, it's still an investment. It's an emotional investment. But the fact of the matter is, it's nice to see people kind of uplifted again and they're seeing some appreciation.
Well, and Chris, you talked about you were really surprised at the lack of knowledge about what is going on in the market economically and focusing in on the real estate market. And that's why it's so important what you do, because I think a big part of that is here in town, at least the journalists, and I use that word loosely.
Right.
It's all they can do to handle the press releases they get, let alone to say, hey, who's our focus specialist on the economy, and let's go deeper on that, real estate. Yet it's so important because they can't wait to report the unemployment numbers.
Right.
So to get a true feel, and, facts are facts. If you only have one or two people in your newsroom, there's a national story that says unemployment's up and homeowners' prices are going down. They're just going to amplify that here. So the message that you give, and I encourage people, whether however it is, to reach out to Chris to find out, as you said, those true numbers. And I think that's why these guys were so passionate, guys and gals, when they came up to you and said, Chris, that can't be true. You're the first one that's told us that, but you're the first one that really knows what it is.
Right. And we always talk about, Dave, too. I tell these people, we start talking about how we operate in general as a group, real estate group. And we run these numbers, and we kind of know what we're doing. And I encourage people to reach out to us. You can email me direct at chris@clgeagle.com, or you can call my cell phone directly, 514-5003. If you have questions about these numbers, But overall, that's the best part about it, because overall, what's going on around here, and if you haven't opened your eyes and looked around, you can't really tell. But I was really surprised to see the attitude, kind of the uplifted of the people we were talking to, which is kind of cool because, all the stuff we're talking about, Whole Foods, the Ruth Chris of the world coming here, and you see all that really, really great, great movement, I guess you would say, or shift. But like we talked about before, these companies, they know where the money's flowing. People are coming here. People don't like it necessarily, but people are coming here. The economy's getting stronger. Unemployment rate's 7.4%, which is getting better every week. Slowly. It'd be great to see it at 5.5. Do I think we're going to get there really quick? Probably not that quick. But overall, I think the health of the Treasure Valley is doing great.
Well, and those are pieces you all look at that are so critical as far as businesses coming here in some regards. And I know those of you that don't have a job, I don't want you to look at this and say, what the heck is he talking about? But the lower that number gets, that becomes less attractive for companies to come in because they say, well, there's no one for us to hire. Mm-hmm. Things they do look at is how cheap electricity is in the state of Idaho. I mean, I think it's the cheapest. I'm guessing your utility
not at my house.
Bill was, well, yeah. But based on that, utility numbers, the education, everything that you stack in there looks good. In essence, I'm guessing that something had to come up about the election. I mean, it's going to be hotly contested between Romney and President Obama. Is that true that that's going to affect the consumer confidence, or what's your thoughts on that, Chris?
We had a very long discussion about this with a couple people just the other day, and the fact of the matter is, I really don't think. I think from an investment standpoint and what's going on with the stock market, yes. Real estate, no. I don't think people aren't basing their decisions on whether they're going to buy or sell a house. Maybe on the investment side, a little bit's being affected, but the fact for the regular buyer or seller of a home, it really doesn't affect. It's more of a lifestyle decision. You know what I mean? So it's more of a decision of, hey, are we moving? Do we need to downsize? Do we need to upgrade? So overall, you talk about consumer confidence on that end of things. I think it's more based on the overall economy in general that might be a little shaky. But for just when you're talking about buying or selling a normal resale house or buying a new construction house, no, I don't. I think there's just the consumers, it kind of is what it is.
What, Chris, is the buy cycle right now? For the most part, we've just about wrapped up this month of July. Mm-hmm. What are you seeing as far as, are people still trying to button up that home before school starts, before summer's over? I imagine there's still a lot of pressure on inventory. And again, that's from a novice. You're right. The expert. I'm asking that question.
Well, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because you look at it and you go, okay, what's happening right now is everyone's like, is it a buyer's market or is it a seller's market? And the fact of the matter is, it's turning into a seller's market, and the buyers don't like it. So what they've been doing is they've been kind of waiting, and they wait, and then finally they're like, okay, well, I got to get a house, And historically, you're going to get your typical person that was raised like me. My father's always told me, own your house, good, bad, indifferent. It's a good investment, long term. If you're talking about flipping it, owning it a year, and you're going to get some big appreciation, those days are over. I mean, they're over nationwide. It's just not going to happen. Lending's never going to loosen up the way it does. But right now, I'm seeing a lot of that. We're seeing a lot of panic. We talk about Jerry Kelly, who's a client specialist for me and for our group. She's telling these people, she's like, you make a decision. They're looking at her going, well, we can't find anything. We don't want to pay $250 for that house in Meridian. We want to get it for $220, but the sellers won't budge. And so what ends up happening is we talk about having kind of a chess match, and they sit there and the sellers are like, someone's going to come along and buy our house, and sure as heck they do.
Yeah. Well, as you said, the transition is going from the buyer to the seller, and it's happening. And and here's the thing, Chris, this isn't new. If somebody's just tuned into your show and say, well, did he just figure? No, Chris, you've talked about this since we started the program. We're coming up on our first year, looking at that and just saying that's where it's going. So good advice from Chris Lofthus on this Saturday. Remember, you can go to his website. Chris, the shows are on there as well. Annette puts those on. So tell everybody what the address and how to get there.
Yeah, it's www.chrislofthus.com. I'll spell it for you. It's CHRIS, L as in Larry, O, F as in Frank, T as in Tom, HUS as in Sam. And you can log on there. We have a lot of good stuff on there. We have the radio show. We got some links to our YouTube page, Facebook page. We always want to ask our clients to kind of friend us on Facebook and get on there. All of the tours of the properties we have listed are on there, and just it's an overall good place to go just for information on what's going on in the valley.
What are the top three, and I'm going to just use these, I know I am putting you on the spot a little bit, but the top three elements that somebody would look for in purchasing a home? Would it be school, location, and number of bedrooms? Or what would you say, Chris, because you're out there every day, are the top three pieces that somebody looks for when buying their home?
Well, yeah, first and foremost, first of all, the whole thing's price. What can they afford? And that's drastically changed with lending over the last few years, which we all know. But yeah, I would say number one, school, especially in Boise. You have so many families moving in here. I would say probably 70% of the total sales that my group does is families. A lot of relocation.
So schools are one.
Schools number one. I would say price is number one for sure. Schools number two, and then the third thing is really location to everything you want. That's why Meridian's so popular. Meridian. Yeah. You can't if you've never been here, or if you're listening to the show for the first time, if you go through Meridian, it's got such great subdivisions. From Paramount to Loxa Falls to Tuscany, all of them. But the thing about it is you can hop from your subdivision to anything. There's so much going on. There's so many great things that are you can get to quickly, and you and I kind of differ a little bit on the subject of Meridian School District. I don't know a whole lot about it, but it kind of seems to me that people are doing the research on Meridian School District in general, and I'm not saying maybe it's Eagle or whether it's Meridian, whether it's Rocky Mountain High School, whatever. But from what I'm hearing from consumers, it's just a lot better from where they're coming from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether they're coming from California, Colorado, whatever, it's a whole lot better here than it is there.
You are listening to the Chris Lofthus. It's radio on the Realty on the Radio with Chris Lofthus show. It's brought to you by the Chris Lofthus Group and Keller Williams Group of Boise. We've talked about people that are looking to move here from outside the state, and we actually have Pete has come from San Diego today, who we will, full disclosure, he's a friend of yours, but chance for us to ask him kind of the question is, compare this to where you live and why you would want to move here.
Yeah, Pete. I've known Pete since I've been, I think, about 4 years old, and he's a really good buddy of mine, and he comes and visits a lot. He loves Boise. Unfortunately, he's in a situation where his company is down in San Diego with his family, and like he says, we'll discuss a little bit about it and why I wanted to bring him on. He's just visiting for the week with my family, and we're going to go down the river and fish and do all the good stuff we can do here in Idaho.
Don't forget to get a fishing license. You remember what happened last year.
Yeah,
okay.
You can't necessarily do in places like San Diego. But we just talk about how much there is to offer here, and kind of give Pete's perspective on why people are moving here, why we're seeing so much movement from not just California, but for everywhere, and why people are choosing Boise.
All right, that and more when we return right after this timeout.